community television may be also picking it up. So let's hope that we are live and we are streaming out there.
And Joe, we're live on the web too. So folks are watching us on Facebook Live. They're watching us via the Somerville Media website as
Good evening and welcome to the Somerville Media Center's Primary Election Coverage 2018. I'm Joe Lynch.
And I'm Carrie Rodriguez.
And we are so pleased to be coming to you live. A little technical glitch there right at 8 o'clock, but the polls are now closed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Being decided tonight are
a number of really high-powered elections right here in our community. Certainly, you know, the highest profile one being who's going to represent us in Washington as the next congressman from this district, whether we will continue on with our incumbent, Michael Capuano, or we will have a new voice and a new face in Ayanna Pressley, a current Boston City Councilor.
I do feel bad for the two Democratic candidates for governor because they have been overshadowed here in Somerville.
Is there a governor's race?
Is there a governor's race? And there's a lieutenant governor's race. And there is a Middlesex district attorney's race. But let's congratulate some of the folks who we know have already won.
Absolutely. So we want to say congratulations to Senator Pat Jalen, State Representatives Denise Provost, State Representative Connolly, and State Representative Barber, who are running unopposed in this primary. So congratulations to you. You are all on to November. So some other additional candidates down ballot were also running unopposed, and so we want to say congratulations to them as well.
So I think it was Suzanne Bump, or a state auditor, Maura Healy, or Attorney General. Am I missing anybody there?
No, because we do have a race for Secretary of State between Bill Galvin and Josh Zakum.
That's right.
So that will be also very interesting to watch. Some fiery debates happening in the Secretary of State's race. I mean, it's stunning.
A lot of people will say, well, what does the Secretary of State do? Well, let's put it this way. You exercised one of the most important things that you can do as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. Hopefully you all voted today. And that Secretary of State's position has a lot of sway and control over how, when, where, and what we vote for.
And these constitutional offices are really so important. And that's why not only tonight are we talking to our wonderful community of Somerville, but we also want to welcome in viewers in Cambridge and Everett as well. So thanks for joining us, as well as our audience that is watching us on the web tonight.
And the wonderful technology that we have here. If it goes wrong, it'll go wrong.
Yes, we only had one fire, so
we're slight little smoking sensation by the time Carrie and I got in here tonight. So polls are now closed. Massachusetts, thank you for voting. We're going to try it at around 8:15 to get our good friend Jason Corey, who's up at Somerville City Hall. We're going to try to get him to give us some numbers coming directly from Somerville City Hall. Then I do have some friends over in Cambridge. I know I'm not supposed to go over the line, but I have some friends in Cambridge who may be texting with some numbers from Cambridge.
Yeah, I'm fine with having friends in Cambridge. Just don't start calling areas of Somerville Camberville, because then we're going to have a fight.
And you also brought somebody. I want you to introduce one of your colleagues at Eduma.
Yes, actually, you know, a wonderful friend of mine who we've just brought on to the staff of Massachusetts Parents United. He is kind of a legend in political circles in Boston. My wonderful colleague, our Deputy Director of Organizing, Ed Shoemaker, who is with us, who is actually providing some of the live results that we're going to be reporting tonight. So we're so blessed to have Ed as an extra set of hands in the studio, so we can be providing you those up-to-the-minute results that you're looking for here tonight.
So we got some projections. You know, it's always fun when people call you unannounced. But we did get some projections for the expected turnout in Somerville today, and they're looking at somewhere around the 15 to 16,000 voters who showed up today, which, in my best guesstimate, says it's pretty much what showed up at last year's municipal election.
So we're talking about standard turnout, right?
Pretty standard turnout, although there was a surge in the, and it's not unexpected, there was a surge in around the 6:30 time frame.
Of course.
People coming home from work. What was not expected is, I think, the number of the absentee ballots that were actually cast, and a lot of it has to do with the Labor Day weekend.
Of course, and this is kind of an unusual election day. You know, this may actually pass a lot of folks by. If you're not paying attention, it would be very easy to say, well, gosh, it was just Labor Day yesterday. It can't be Election Day already.
Right.
You know, hopefully you didn't sleep on this one, because your vote could actually make one hell of a difference here. And in terms of turnout, too, we also want to talk about, if we're going to be discussing the congressional race in CD7, taking a look at Boston, because this is kind of a funky shaped district when we're talking about this congressional district. We're talking about Everett, we're talking about Somerville, we're talking about Cambridge, we're talking about a big chunk of Boston. Milton,
Right.
Randolph.
Randolph.
So it's kind of like one of these funky little shapes there. So we're really going to have to take a look at turnout in a number of different areas. What's interesting to note, if we're taking a look at Boston, some of the strongholds of Ayanna Pressley, in Ward 19 and Ward 20, which is your Jamaica Plain, Roslindale, and West Roxbury area, really extraordinary turnout. 29.3% in Ward 19, Ward 20, 25.3%. These are as of about 7 p.m.
And of those, typically in the 15-17% range?
Yeah, 12 to 15% range. And then you take a look at Dorchester, Mattapan, Ward 16 and 17 in Boston, 21.1%, 20.3%. This was reported at about 7 o'clock. So it remains to be seen. I mean, don't underestimate Michael Capuano. He has an extraordinary machine, incredible outreach.
Let's see what Somerville has said. So if we can cut back over to Somerville City Hall, can we do that now? Because we do have some numbers that are coming in. They're being posted.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, I can't really see it on the monitor here. So can we get that on the big screen? And can we...
See if we can make that a little clearer.
Yeah,
for
can we
folks to
ask
see.
Jason if he can make it a little bit clearer on his end?
And this is amazing, because this is live, this is real-time results, doing our best to make sure that you have the up-to-the-minute information. Even faster than you get on the web, I think. This is real-time from Somerville City Hall.
Yeah, so the technology that we're trying to use here is we can see the image. We can see the image, which is on a big screen TV up at Somerville City Hall, but I can't really make them out.
And let's see.
We've got this. Hey, Jace. Let's see if we can get Jason.
And while we're waiting for this information, just in terms of, again, some turnout in Boston, which, again, we have to monitor because it's a huge chunk of this congressional district, we are seeing that voter turnout as of 6 p.m. in Boston was about 18.4% overall, which is pretty significant for a primary, especially given the fact it is the day after Labor Day.
So you also, you know, I mean, bundling those in, Carrie, you have a race for governor, you have a race for lieutenant governor, you have a race for the congressional representation, and there are some other races in the state reps races in Boston that could
really,
account for pulling those people
I
out.
mean, it's been unbelievable. The race for Suffolk County District Attorney has certainly captured a lot of attention. A number of very popular political names in that race: Evandro Cavallo, Shannon McAuliffe, Rachel Rollins, Greg Henning. Certainly a hotly contested race, one that has captured so much attention, so many boots on the grounds. And really, what I think is refreshing is that people are actually having this amazing conversation about what a district attorney does and how it impacts the community, which I think is just amazing. I'm hearing, different perspectives of people dissecting this position in ways that I had never heard before.
Well, what's also very interesting about that race is that you have two very qualified women running for district attorney. I mean, remember when we were growing up, a district attorney was always the white guy with the press shirt, and he'd get in front of a microphone. So we have Marion Ryan and Donna Padalano, two very, very well-respected women running for that seat.
Certainly, here in Middlesex County, an amazing race happening, and people actually talking about what can that position actually do. There's been a lot of voter education, and Massachusetts Parents United, my organization, actually, we had a huge Facebook Live where we had the head of the ACLU in Massachusetts, one of the most amazing people actually advancing this conversation, talking about justice in our community, criminal justice reform, and what these positions can actually do to impact our lives directly in our communities. Really, so many people thinking that, a district attorney is somebody who is appointed by the governor. I mean, there's just so many different misconceptions. So I don't know. I love it. I think it's all good to have these conversations. Just like when we're talking about the congressional race, too. I think this is wonderful that we're having this conversation.
They're waiting. They're waiting at home. Let's do our picks. You tell me if you want me to go first or you.
You go first.
I will go first. So as many of you know, I tried to stay off of social media all during the election cycle.
I do not.
Until this weekend, when I posted a picture of Congressman Capuano and I over at the JFK Museum. In fairness, it was taken last year. So
by Mike Dukakis,
by Michael Dukakis. And, the Lynches have known the Capuanos for probably 50 or 60 years. Michael and I were kids, growing up in Somerville, part of the Winter Hill of old. My father knew Michael's dad very, very well. I knew Michael when he was mayor. I've known him for a very, very long time. So my loyalty to Mike Capuano came through this year. And Michael came to my house earlier in the summer, and he met 100 or so of my nearest and dearest friends.
Well, Joe, we can't fault you with that. And honestly, I have some tugs at my heartstrings, too. I mean, I grew up on Sycamore Street at the corner of Browning Road, I think maybe 2 blocks away from the Capuanos. My family has been very close with the family, my brother in particular. And, I think that, Mike has done a great job, he has voted the right way. But I also see progress happening, and I see changes coming, and I'm seeing a breath of fresh air with Ayanna Pressley. And I have known Mike for a very long time. I've also known Ayanna for a very long time. In my experience with her, having, parents who have been struggling with poverty, trying to overcome some issues with trauma that are just absolutely heartbreaking, heart-wrenching.
It's a compelling story.
Going in and talking to
her.
her, I mean, like her level of understanding. There is no way to explain. There is no way to empathize your way into having that lens. And frankly, representation matters. It does. This is a majority-minority district. We in Somerville especially espouse a lot of progressive ideals, saying, oh, absolutely, diversity matters. We need to have, representation of color. This is a moment. This is a change that we're seeing in society. This is a shift where we say that we value these things. And we have a young, bright African-American woman who is ready to just take that fire down to Donald Trump, and that is what we need in this country.
And I think, Carrie, there were a lot of people who were torn. I watched, the social media posts. There were a lot of people who are very, very friendly with Mike in his mayoral days here in Somerville. He is one of the progressives, not just my saying. He has been branded a progressive for 20-something years. Do you think that we're seeing that shift within the Democratic Party, and it's going to hold, that the more progressive folks are the ones that are going to get the younger voters to vote for them.
Well, I got to tell you, this has been a shift that I've seen probably since 2010, since 2012, a real shift towards stepping forward, making sure that, we're not just talking the talk, we're walking the walk. I mean, I saw it with the shift, going back to Barack Obama's campaign, and seeing folks coalesce behind this young African-American first-term United States Senator and saying, if we want bold, progressive leadership, if we really want to change, we want to say and make a statement as to who we are as Democrats and live our ideals, then we're going to make this change and we're going to be brave and bold and do it. And I got to tell you, there can be no progress without struggle. People don't like change. It's uncomfortable. It's difficult. And it's not to discount the work that people have done. Like, there's not saying, like, I'm not sitting here saying that, Mike Capuano and his votes around the Patriot Act and against the Iraq War, those were very valuable, bold stances. But we are in hot water in this country. Yeah. Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and it's not just enough to vote the right way now.
Right.
We need bold voices.
Not to discount Ayanna Pressley and her message. I think there were many, many people like myself, maybe a little bit older, who are a little bit hesitant about changing midstream because the man in the White House is so dangerous. Because we are on the precipice every time we wake up in the morning and read the man's tweets, I think there is hesitancy. Whatever the issues are, there's hesitancy on certain people's part about getting rid of somebody who is a progressive voter, but not progressive enough.
Well, and that's the problem, though. You're talking about not wanting to change midstream. You're talking about not wanting to upset the apple cart. Well, I'm here to tell you that the apple cart has been upset, okay? Wake up, Bambi, the woods are on fire. The woods are on fire right now.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. Who's going to take it?
I can't call it right now. I want to see some of the initial numbers. Do we have some of them actually coming through yet?
We have some numbers, but I can't read them on Facebook here, so I'm just going to I'm going to look to your guy who's sitting in the back of the studio just
Yeah, I'm looking out here. So just some anecdotal, we're getting some, when the process that they go through, the actual receipts that come out of the voting machine. So we're actually having people text in those voting receipts right now. So I can report in some of what this looks like in some of the different districts in Boston, some of the different precincts in Boston. It's looking like East Boston came out pretty hard for Ayanna Pressley.
East
Boston. Okay. That's the airport, Harborside part of the district. Again, Jamaica Plain, Roslindale, West Roxbury coming out very hard for her. Dorchester, Mattapan as well.
Her district.
This is really her strong. Well, right. Ayanna Pressley is an at-large city councilor, so she is actually one of the top vote getters.
And where does she live in Boston?
I want to say it's Dorchester. Ed, do you have that? Yes. Ashmont.
The Ashmont section of, yep.
So, we'll have to see. We'll have to take a look at these maps. Are we getting any additional numbers, Ed? Any precincts reporting at this time? So those are some of the
these are some of the local Boston races,
yes.
But they could be indicative of how people are voting in Boston. I'm just gonna, for folks at home, I know you're getting some results because you probably are tapping into somebody at City Hall. And I just asked the control room here if we could see if we can make out what Jason is sending to us.
Or if Jason can send us just a picture, a screenshot of what he's seeing.
Maybe we can just disconnect from Jason and have him call those numbers in.
Yes, that might be helpful. Or just take a screenshot of the screen and text that over to us so that we can report those results.
So
too.
if we could just disconnect Facebook with Jason and ask him to call those numbers in to us, that would be great. Because I'm sure everybody in Somerville wants to know how is Somerville voting in the 7th Congressional District. We also have, in fairness, we also have a a Somerville resident who is running for governor, Bob Massey. He is running against Jay Gonzalez, who received the Democratic Party's endorsement at the convention. Both men are very well known here in the city. Jay Gonzalez worked for Governor DeVal Patrick. He's known to a lot of the politicos here.
Mm-hmm.
Both Bob Massey and Jay Gonzalez have been on Greatest Somerville.
I love Bob Massey. He's a neighbor of mine.
I don't know how to call this one.
Now, I got to tell you, I got to tell you, I love and adore Bob Massey. He will not win tonight, but I adore the man. He was our neighbor on Sycamore Street. My middle child, Miles, is a super Bob Massey fan. He actually believes that Bob Massey is the smartest man in the universe because he went into his house one day. He has more books in his house than we've ever seen. And Bob Massey, God love him, eats the cookies that my children make with their bare hands. So I have love for him. Will he win this race? I don't believe so.
You just called it. You just said he's not going to win. So where is the Jay Gonzalez support coming from? Outside of the city of Boston? Is it coming mainly from the suburbs, the Worcesters, the Springfields, Lawrence, Lowell?
Listen, I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm a member of the Democratic State Committee. I will support Jay Gonzalez. I was an early supporter of Jay Gonzalez. But this is a really difficult gubernatorial. Let's be honest here as Democrats, as family. Let's talk about this. Okay, it's a very, very difficult race. Jay has very little money. As we saw in the primary, Bob has even less money. Right. So I've got to hope if Jay's going to have any chance in the general against Charlie Moneybags Baker, who has a lot of money and a lot of love. Even Democrats love this man. It's going to be very, very difficult. So, where is the love coming? There's not a lot of love out there right now. So he's going to have to do something that's going to light the world on fire for people to just get super passionate and really, I don't know, start to feel that fire that gets them out there banging doors and raising money. I do have some interesting results actually coming from Somerville. Just, this is what's coming up here. Ward 6, Precinct 2 in Somerville, Capuano 508 to Presley 504. That is one precinct, in one ward.
It shows you how tight that this race was projected to be. Most of the major polls were saying a 10-point spread, and they had Mike Capuano up by 10 points very, very steadily all the way through. But the problem comes in is that old, when you hear pundits say plus or minus 4% or within the margin of error, I think they have to get rid of that, Carrie. That margin of error is now upwards of 8 to 10%.
Yeah, you really can't. I mean, we just saw this in Florida, even,
right.
Gosh, with the
right.
governor's race. My
right.
goodness.
But you also see the power of, social media. You see the power of people talking to their neighbors, knocking on doors. Yard signs, don't vote. I know that. But, I don't see a whole lot of Ayanna Pressley signs in Somerville. But that's not an indicator anymore of what's happening out there.
Well, and again, going back to taking a look at this race, it's really old school versus new school. I mean, honestly, you take a look at it. Mike Capuano has the signs up, in these areas of Dorchester, including this Dorchester-Mattapan area where she wins 17-14, one of the two precincts in the Lower Mills Library area, 324 to 124 over Mike Capuano in that area. You go to that area of Dorchester and Mattapan, you see those giant Mike Capuano signs because there is a machine that knows where to put up the signs, and that's traditionally what happens. But in this new age of organizing, digital organizing, and this social media age that we're in right now, you're right, those signs don't mean anything.
Right. So let's go back to, I put you on the spot, and I want you to call it, because it is now almost 8:30. 8:30, you're getting an indication that some of the Boston precincts that you kind of thought were going to go her way are going her way. Some of the precincts here in Somerville, we knew were going to be tight because of the influx of newer voters. We got a taste of it last year in the municipal elections when there was an enormous upheaval and we had 5 new members come in.
You know what's so tough for me, Joe, honestly, and I've worked on so many campaigns in the city of Somerville. I feel like I've knocked on every door, every single door in Somerville. And, the thing is, knowing this city as I do and how densely populated it is, and how passionate folks are about voting, but also noticing that gentrification is real, and that the same old vote that, you know, an older Democrat would typically depend on, those voters aren't there anymore. And that it's a whole new crop of people saying, oh my gosh, I just moved to progressive Somerville, and let me take a look here. Oh, you know, my ward representation is white. My congressional representation is white. Like, we've got to do something to mix things up. Like, we know that young progressive Democrats are looking at all of these things with a very different lens.
But what was very interesting to me, and I'm going to get in trouble, but I care. What was very interesting to me was that the younger progressive Our Revolution folks coalesced in the presidential election around an old white guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing when you look at that? And then when you look at the 2017 election here in Somerville, not a person of color was elected out of that Our Revolution slate.
Well, and again,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me backtrack. Will Ba?
I have some results here.
oh,
for you.
fantastic.
So we have here, it says Senate, and you go to Republican and Democrat, and it tells you.
Great.
So no, you go here.
Breaking down the fourth
Republican,
wall
you
here.
can
Third
break it
wall,
down.
fourth wall, what did they say?
Look
And
at
then you get
this.
and then you go to governor, and it breaks it down. Do you have that?
So our live feed from Somerville, we're not
Okay.
going to be able. Thank you, Jojo. Jojo Larici, director, you do this.
Okay, I will do this.
All right.
You do a little tap dancing here while
I'll
I figure
do
this
tap
out.
dancing.
That.
So Carrie
But I will
does
say
not
this.
want to call the congressional seventh, and I will. I will call it for Mike Capuano.
Okay, give me your rationale as to how you call this race.
The rationale is I've been watching that poll, multiple polls, and I talked to two pollsters this morning who said unless there are hidden votes out there the day after Labor Day, the movement of that poll has stayed steady. Ayanna Pressley has not made huge inroads in the last poll that was taken, which was last weekend. You have not seen the steady climb, and you have not seen the decline for Capuano. So my question to them was, you've been holding those polls steady at 10%. You dropped from 13 down to 10. What is the likelihood that Mike Capuano will drop below 10%? And they said there is a very good likelihood. So this could be a very, very tight race.
Yeah, I think that this will be a very tight race. And just going back briefly to, and we have some numbers being reported regarding the governor's race in Somerville. Gonzalez, 6,185. Bob Massey with 8,066. That's
So
Somerville
Massey's
as of
taking
now.
Somerville. Yeah.
Which is no surprise. I
No
like that. I
surprise.
like that for Bob Massey.
Yeah.
I love Bob.
But that's a
But-
strong showing for Gonzalez here in Bob Massey's own hometown.
Oh, certainly. But that being said,
And that clocks in, let me
Yep.
just tout,
Go.
that's clocking in at the 15 to 16,000 that we projected we're going to come out.
yes, and right now we're seeing in the race for Secretary of State, which we said was another one to watch, very contentious, and the debates were fiery. Galvin, 6,998. Zakem, 7,539. So
Little
right
bit of a
now,
spread.
Josh Zakem up there. The numbers, Capuano and Presley in Somerville right now, 7,939 for Mike Capuano. Ayanna Presley, 7,693 in Somerville.
Tight.
Very tight.
A very tight race.
Goodness. So that's putting us right at that 15,000
So
range.
right here at the 30-minute mark after the polls have closed, Mike Capuano is in the lead, not by a whole lot.
And I got to tell you something. So again, going back to our beloved Somerville here, where we're very dense, turning out the vote here. Ayanna Presley, I think, knowing that this is Mike's home turf and his bread and butter, was not necessarily as aggressive in Somerville, but still had a vibrant campaign. I went and knocked 6 packets myself on that. Some more results coming in. I appreciate that, Ed. But really, this may come down to whether or not Mike is able to pull it out in Everett and how big that lead, because I have to assume that Everett is going to go big for Mike Capuano. The Sal Di Domenico machine, he is a good friend of Mike Capuano. You have to know that he is out there banging down doors. I saw him actually this afternoon, and I was surprised to see him. He was actually picking up pizza in Somerville at Ernesto's, by the way. That's right. That's our
I'm
tax
not
dollars.
going to tell you who I saw picking up pizza for the Capuano routine.
Well, I was a little mad
campaign.
at first because I saw some of Cappy's folks picking up at Ernesto's, and I'm like, why would you not go to Peeny's? Like, what's wrong with you? You live in the same ward, and Peeny's is right there. Why
They'll
would you
have
go
the
to
answer
Ernesto's?
for that later.
But anyway,
let me do one here.
Yes.
The Marion Ryan Donna Catalano race for Middlesex County District Attorney. These are Somerville numbers that
These are
we're
Somerville
recording.
numbers.
That Donna Padalano is in the lead with 7,700 votes. Marion Ryan at 5,900 votes. That's a sizable difference
It
at
definitely
8:30
is.
at night.
But again, we have to say this is a Middlesex County race.
Right.
Middlesex County is a huge place. And Donna certainly had a very vibrant campaign in the city of Somerville, had all of these elected officials coming out for her. But Middlesex County also has some major cities also incorporated in the same county. So while, Somerville, you gotta play ball in Somerville because we are the most densely populated, or one of the most densely populated cities in the entire country, I think. So you have to play ball here, but
It should tell you something if you're thinking about elective office here in the city. It should tell you something that the average age in this city is now 34 years old. It tells you a lot on how the city has changed, where the voters are, and who they're going to vote for.
And just again, going back very briefly, I do think that this is going to come down to whether or not, Cappy is able to pull out some big numbers in Everett and how big those margins are going to be in JP, West Roxbury, Roslindale, Dorchester, Mattapan. Like this is where it is because it is so close in Somerville. Again, we're talking about what, 200 votes, maybe a little over 200 votes.
Yeah, and I
separating
said
the
to
two.
you before the show started, I was very, very interested. I wanted to see the Cambridge numbers. So I don't know how many voters. I don't know how many.
I'm screwing up my microphone.
That's the Italian. That's the Italian with the hands. Oh, by the way,
Portuguese girl.
the boys are going to be learning Italian. That's a
Ai,
joke.
Jesus,
Go to
English.
Carrie's Facebook. Let's see some other things. How's she sounded now? She sounded okay?
Am I better? Oh, let's
Let's
take a
do,
look at
Lieutenant
Lieutenant
Governor.
Governor. Yes, Quentin Palfrey, 6,925. Jimmy Tingle, 6,465. Jimmy Tingle, yeah, I love Jimmy Tingle. Jimmy Tingle used to come to all of the Somerville Dems meetings. Like he is a good Somerville Dem. I love that.
I
man.
gotta give Jimmy a shout out. Jimmy appeared on Greatest Somerville one time. It was when he was pumping one of the movie that he did. He was pumping the movie, so he said, "Well, do you need my bio?" And I said, "No, Jimmy." I said, "I'll introduce you the way I normally introduce people is 1, 2, 3." And I said, my guest is a writer, an actor, a singer, a performer, a director. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome Barbara Streisand. I thought Jimmy Tingle was going to go off the chair. He was laughing so hard. But anyway,
Well, I gotta tell
Jimmy's
you,
right behind Quentin.
And a lot of people haven't taken Jimmy very seriously because he is so funny and he's such a brilliant entertainer. But, this is a guy who went to Harvard. This is a guy who, when you listen to him telling his personal story about recovery and overcoming addiction and some of the things he went through in his life, this is a very deep guy, and I love the man. So I was happy to support him today.
Yeah, and I know very well that Jimmy had Seamus out working for him all during the summer. So congratulations to Seamus. Win or lose, congratulations to Seamus.
That's right. You want to repeat some of these numbers while I dig up some new ones?
Sure. These were just about 5 minutes ago. So for governor here in Massachusetts, here in Somerville, we have Bob Massey leading with 8,000. I don't go into the details unless there's very close, but Bob Massey is leading with 8,000 votes to Jay Gonzalez's 6,200. Quentin Palfrey is leading Jimmy Tingle, 6,900 votes to 6,400 votes. We have Bill Galvin, who is trailing Josh Zakem in Somerville at this point. Josh Zakem at 7,500 and Bill Galvin just about 7,000. Michael Capuano is holding the lead at 830, 7,900 votes to Ayanna Presley's 7,700 votes. And then in the district attorney's race, we have Donna Padalano leading at 7,700 votes over Marion Ryan's almost 6,000 votes. So that is Somerville. It looks like that may or may not be what is being projected up at Somerville City Hall.
Yeah, because when we're taking a look at these numbers, best guesstimates we were getting was about 15,000, 16,000 voters in the city of Somerville. This is right there.
Right.
So maybe we can get some information. How close are we to final? How many precincts reporting, Ed? Do we have a number for Somerville? 17 out of 18 precincts in Somerville
That's
reporting in these
Somerville or
numbers.
Boston? Because I think we have 21 precincts. 21 precincts, sorry,
Okay.
no, 7 wards, 3 precincts each. 21.
That would be 21.
All but one is they're
Got it. So they're still counting up at Somerville City Hall. I haven't got anything from Cambridge at this point, so if you're watching on our channel, on the Somerville Media Center website, if you're over there in Cambridge City Hall, I'd be very, very interested in those numbers as well. Statewide, we also, I neglected to say at the top of the show that we do have Senator Warren and Senator Markey, who are also running for re-election unopposed in the primary.
That's right. It's going to be interesting in terms of who the Republican that faces Elizabeth Warren is actually going to be. They have a primary tonight on the Republican side of things. We'll bring you those numbers fairly shortly here.
Yep, we'll get up to those numbers, but if anybody has, what was this one
Yeah,
they
that kind of
gave us?
crapped out on
Did
us.
it crap out on us?
Yes.
We
but
use technical terms here at the Somerville Media
yes,
Center.
very technical
Some of
and
the
formal.
feeds are crapping out, some of them are successful. So,
Listen, there's a reason why people are tuning into us right now, and we know you are. We know, because I'm going to go out to Starbucks tomorrow, and I'm going to be Somerville famous.
they were
I
looking.
guarantee.
They were looking to us because there's a lot of people in the city who know who you are, being the former chair of the Somerville Democratic City Committee.
And I continue to represent as a member of your Democratic State Committee. I'm a gender balanced member. I have a female seat on the Democratic State Committee, so I'm always open to listening to everybody, but especially women.
Sure, and I grew up in a house with 5 women, so I had no choice.
So there you go. God bless you. And he lives
Excuse
to
me.
tell the tale.
I live to tell the tale. So what we're going to try to do is get some Massachusetts numbers if we can, and let you know that Somerville may or may not be the bellwether for all of Massachusetts, because as I was told by a pundit many years ago, Joe, there is life outside of the metropolitan Boston area.
Outside of Somerville?
And
What?
at metropolitan Boston, and it's called the metropolitan areas of Lowell and Lawrence and Fall River and New Bedford and Worcester and Springfield and all of those places that we drive through or we visit occasionally.
And I got to tell you, the 3rd Congressional District has been one of those hot and heavy. But I mean, what did they have? 49 different people running for the congressional.
I think there were 14 or 16.
That
people.
might as well be 49,
Right.
correct?
And
Oh
you're
my
talking
goodness.
about the Lowell Lawrence area where Congresswoman Nikki Songas decided not to run. It was a very, very crowded field up there. I don't know if we have numbers on
Yeah,
them,
let's
but
take a look at some of the numbers that are being reported with the Boston Globe right now. So in the race for Massachusetts governor, the Democratic primary, Jay Gonzalez with 65.4% over Bob Massey, 34.6%. That's a statewide number. The Massachusetts gubernatorial primary for the Republican side of things, Charlie Baker with 66%, Scott Lively of Springfield, 34%. Let's take a look at some of these other races. Of course, not a lot to
statewide
report.
Galvin leading Josh Zakum.
Yes, that's 67.8% over Zakum, 32.2%. Again, referencing that Republican primary, who will face Elizabeth Warren, and you better be on the doors knocking for Elizabeth Warren in this city. Jeff Deal with 52.5%. John Kingston, you've been seeing some of his commercials.
John Kingston had a lot of television ads.
Yes,
Yeah.
a lot. 28.2%. They seem to have worked a bit. Beth Lindstrom, 19.3%. Let's see, the race for Middlesex County District Attorney, Marion Ryan with 55.8% over Donna Padalano, 44.2%. That's only with 1% reporting, so stay with us. More to report there.
Remember, these are unofficial results coming in, so.
And, right now, again, we talked about the Suffolk County District Attorney race. There's Evandro Cavallo, Linda Champion, Greg Henning, Shannon McAuliffe, Rachel Rollins. That is a race to watch in Boston, and a lot of people talking about that, a lot of political energy behind that race. but they're not really reporting any results yet. So Jeff Deal has been called as the winner of the Republican primary. He will face Elizabeth Warren coming up in November. And again,
No
you know,
surprise, Charlie
no
Baker.
surprises there. Charlie
Right.
Baker and McMahon over Dan Schur. So, you know, we're going to continue to follow, and we're going to request some updated Somerville numbers when we have them available to you. But again, tracking this in real time, our latest numbers in terms of Somerville, really a close congressional race there. Is this closer than you thought it would be?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. I thought, you know, based on what happened here in Somerville last year, I thought it would be closer. You know, Michael Capuano typically clocks in with no opposition, which is extraordinary for somebody, because my rule of thumb, Carrie, has always been 30% of the voters who go to the polls don't like the incumbent anyway. So you start at 100, you wind up at 70%, you're doing okay. Mike Capuano typically would wind up in the high 80s, low 90s. So there was something, but there was something in the air about Ayanna Pressley's candidacy that just said he's going to have to work his tuchus off to get that 30% back away from her, which would naturally go to the opponent. So I think, you know, initially I was saying, you know, 65%. This could come down to a 55%, 53%.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. I think it will be a lot closer, frankly. And, you know, we could have an upset tonight because seeing these numbers in Somerville, you know, I'm
Close.
shocked, but I'm not shocked because given, you know, the sea change we've seen in the Democratic Party and the fact that you're seeing this emergence of such energy and vibrancy around progressivism, and what does that actually mean? And, you know, again, there can be no progress, you know, without some struggle behind it. And we're going to have these arguments. But, you know, as you and I have talked about before, I mean, I love sitting here with you. You and I are Democrats through and through. I'm
We
so
don't
glad.
even talk to each other off camera.
But honestly, like, it's a fight, but it's a family fight. And at the end of the day, these conversations that we have been having in this primary are critical, because we have to have those discussions.
Right.
We cannot sit back on our laurels. Sitting back on our laurels and not pressing forward does nothing for our communities.
I will say, though, you know, I'm a keen observer of, you know, right across all platforms. You know, I watch the news. I'm still one of those dinosaurs who actually reads a newspaper once in a while. And I've watched both campaigns conduct themselves very, very respectfully. I have not, this is my humble opinion. There's one or two people that I'm friends with on Facebook that I disagreed with the way that they were painting Mike Capuano. And there were just as many on the opposite side who were being rude and crass about comments about Ayanna Pressley. But for the most part, I think both campaigns conducted themselves admirably.
Yeah, the only part that got sticky for me, if I can be honest, because
Sure.
you know I can't tell it any other way, but you know, I think the overall attitude that I felt from the Capuano campaign at some points was like, how dare we be challenged? Like, how dare you question me? How dare you
I think that's
make
a
me
natural
run?
instinct for any
Yeah, but
incumbent.
it's even more arrogant in this race. And, you know, that does not belong to anybody. It's the people's seat. And you should expect to be challenged. And frankly, you know, you should expect to go and knock doors. You should expect to go to the community and have conversations. We had some folks in the city of Somerville, and frankly, our communities of color, saying we have not had good conversations with Mike Capuano. We have not had enough conversations with Mike Capuano, and we want to be heard. This was their opportunity to send a very loud signal. And if he wins tonight, I hope that he is hearing that message, that there is a conversation that needs to be had with communities of color that needs to, you know, we've got to actually sit down and go back to having those conversations again, because I think going unchallenged for so long, it makes you very, I don't know, you just assume that you're going to have the support. You assume that
Well,
you're going to win. You don't have to work that hard.
Complacent? I mean, do you think he
I
was
think
very
that's where I'm
complacent?
going with this.
Yeah.
You know, it was my experience, you know, in, you know, organizing in Somerville. And again, I was the chair of the Somerville Democrats, you know, 2011, up until about
I
2014,
thought you were going to say
2015.
20 years ago.
Well, it feels like 20 years ago. Donald Trump. 15 minutes feels like 20 years, for crying out loud. But for me, what will always stick, having worked so hard with so many activists and so many organizers, people who who actually do the work of going out and knocking on those doors. It is brutal. It is. I did it yesterday for the first time for Ayanna Pressley in Ward 3 yesterday, and it was brutal. Walking up, those double sets of stairs on Montrose. Oh my God, it was crazy. But you know what? Those people are important, and they are worthy of respect.
Correct.
And I don't think. I think Mike has gotten a little bit away from those folks in realizing how much he needs them. And I saw some of that in some of the hurt feelings that came out through the Somerville Downs.
Michael admitted it himself, Mike Capuano admitted it himself in an interview that his machine, his campaign machine, was a little rusty. And then as an aside, and I don't, Michael doesn't call me for advice, but as an aside and said, the district is changing, and I'm going to have to pump up getting to know who these people are.
But Joe, you just said the whole thing. He doesn't call you for advice. Why would he not call Joe Lynch?
He doesn't need my advice.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't need my advice, but I will
needs
tell
your
you one
advice?
thing. I will tell you one thing. When I ran for office here in this city in 2007, that change was very evident to me, where I would go to the door of a childhood friend. That childhood friend's family had moved away 10 years ago to be replaced by either an immigrant family who was just barely making it in Somerville 14 years ago, or however long it was, or replaced by people with a lot more money.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two factions that are coming into play here in Somerville politics. You have an enormous amount of immigrant population that want to vote, they want representation. You also have more moneyed people coming into this city
Joe,
who want a very, very active representation
I think
in
that
Washington.
is a very true thing. And gentrification in Somerville is a very real thing.
You bet.
But I do want to go back. You are a person that Mike Capuano should be asking advice from. He should be having conversations with community activists. He doesn't know it all. We are his eyes and ears on the ground. We are the people who are doing that door knocking. And I'm saying a collective we, because there are so many people that love this community, love his district, who are out there every single day. And he cannot make informed decisions in our best interest and know what we feel if he's not having those connections and those conversations. That has to happen. I don't care how long you've been in Congress.
Well, he should
You've
ask for
got
my
to
advice,
do
because
the
I'll
work.
give him advice tonight once he wins, a very small margin, that he should be talking to the new group of folks who represent Somerville. And these are, whether there are revolution folks or they're immigrant family from Somalia who got here last year, that's your constituency. You have to be able to zone in on those people and say, what are your concerns? How am I representing you, or how am I not representing you in the United States Congress?
And can we have a conversation about our revolution? We got to go back to that, because I think we just kind
Here
of
it comes, folks.
we just kind of glossed over that.
Thanks
we
for
didn't
joining
have a
us here at the
conversation
Somerville
about our
Media Center.
revolution, because I got a little bone to pick with y'all. So here's the thing. We saw our revolution. I love our revolution. I love their passion. I think that I want more people involved in getting out and politically active and whatnot. I did see a disconnect. They were so passionate about the municipal election. You take a look at what our revolution was really like, what their founding values were, which was all kind of related to federal stuff, or
and
the
angry
larger
that Bernie lost.
Yes, statewide stuff. Angry that Bernie lost. Really angry with Donald Trump, wanting to make that change. And they decided to take that political energy and invest it very heavily in municipal races. Where, these municipal races, which I think are so important, they're critical, but really wouldn't address any of the issues that they espouse being so passionate about. But okay, that's cool. You got involved in the municipal races, very effective, very powerful organizing. I dig it. I'm into it. But then you take the congressional race in our revolution, Somerville. Like, this is the race where you could actually see some impact on the issues that you say you care about, but like you're a no-show. Like I don't
It was
understand what that
fascinating
is.
to me, though, that we had the state senator, all 3 state reps, the mayor of this city, and a smattering of our Revolution candidates, aldermen, who endorsed Mike Capuano.
Mhm.
Explain that one. Well, never mind, because we only have 9 minutes left. So
I got a couple explanations for you.
can we get some more statewide numbers or Somerville numbers? Because we're going to do our final count within the next
So
9
let me
minutes
actually
here.
take a quick. Let's have a quick review here.
Is the Globe updating at all?
Do we have an update on the Sanchez race? That actually is one to watch. So Nika Eduardo. Wow, it's looking like Jeff Sanchez. This is actually a big race in Boston. I'm
I
mentioning
watched
it
it.
because
Yep.
he is the highest ranking Latino in the entire state legislature. Ooh, that is a race to watch. My goodness. Okay, let's run through some of these numbers. We'll get back to the third in a minute. The Democratic primary for governor, Jay Gonzalez, currently at 64.7% over Bob Massey, 35.3. That's about 3% reporting. Charlie Baker, having an easy night, 64.4%. 5 minutes, got it. Over Scott Lively.
Marion Ryan holding her own
Marion
statewide,
Ryan, that's right. Countywide.
countywide.
We're not letting people in Springfield vote on this race. You know that, right? No, I'm just Come on, I got to give him a hard time.
And that is why I always have her back.
All right, Marion Ryan at 56.1% over Donna Padalano, 43.9. I want the caveat here is there's 2% reporting.
Right.
So you want to go easy with these numbers. You know, you don't send me nasty
Unofficial,
Facebook
that's why we
messages
always
saying,
say
"Carrie,
they
you're
are
crazy."
unofficial numbers.
Unofficial. Quickly, a race of interest, you know, because it's been so high profile, which is Congressional District 3. That's kind of up. That's the Lawrence, Lowell, Haverhill, like that kind of neck of the woods. Merrimack Valley, are we
Merrimack
calling
Valley.
that? Dan Coe, who was certainly the finance leader, he was the king of raising money. Marty Walsh's former chief of staff. He is currently on top, 28.5%. Barbara L'Italian at 19.1%.
And she was favored to win this.
Well, I don't know about that, but she did have a lot of Democratic activists out
Right.
there. Dan Coe, I mean, he's got money in the Marty Walsh machine. I mean, it's very difficult to beat there. Laurie Trahan, she's Lowell's own, born and bred in Lowell, former chief of staff for Marty Meehan there.
And
Juana
what's
Matias.
interesting about that, though, is that Nikki Songas did not endorse up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't really surprise
I
too
like
much.
that. I like when
Just 1%.
1%.
Yeah. Again.
I
Great.
do like when incumbents step away and they say, you know, have at it. So 13 or 14 or 16 candidates come out of the woodwork, and then the best person rises to the top
I love
during
it.
the primary.
It just gave me the laptop, so. Whoa. Oh, that's 0.4. So I think these are actually a little bit less than we have. No, I have 1%.
I
so
like election night here at Somerville meetings.
it's
so.
lively. It's lively. Next time we need more time. Let's see. Juana Matias with 14.6%. I love Juana.
This
I want
is
to mention
all
her
up
name
in
'cause I
the
love her.
Nikki Songas seat.
Nikki Songas seat.
Yeah, I
and
shouldn't say that.
Juana
She's
Matias from
vacating,
Lawrence.
but-
She is fire, and I love her. So that's where we are right now. Do we have any final numbers from Somerville at this point? I have to imagine that we're pretty close to final.
Yeah, and we should be able to call Somerville at this point because, as many of the municipalities, Somerville has a very unique way of zooming in on. We actually transmit those totals to the elections department, and then that's what we were trying to get up there for Jason to show us. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, if the numbers held at 8:30, and I suspect
It looks
they
like we
did,
are getting some updated numbers, so we're
Okay.
being told to hold for 1 minute. Let's see if we can, before time runs out, if we can get you an update.
Carrie's trying to cut me off, so I won't say that I'm calling Somerville for Mike Capuano. So look at the look.
Call it. Do it.
Yeah, I you know, it's the discussion that you and I had earlier is that it will be tighter than I think most people imagined.
And how do you think, you know, what goes through Mike's mind right now? What goes through Mike's mind? What do you think he takes from this?
I
mean,
can't tell you how
if
he's
it's
going to think.
close-
I would tell you what it would do to me. It would be a wake
Tell
up.
me,
It would be a
Congressman
wake up
Lynch.
call for me it would be a total wake-up call for me, a man who, a person who is used to 80%, 90% of people saying, we like you, we'll vote for you, to be knocked back down into the 50s. That is a message loud and clear.
And is it another message, do you think, to other more establishment
it is.
Democrats that, you
You
know,
bet it is. I think
better get
Stevie
on it?
Lynch better watch his back. I think Ed Markey better watch their back. I think all those folks. So they're telling us to wrap it up because we do have to stop at 20:58 because we have to get our commercials in. I just want to, once again, I want to thank Carrie Rodriguez because I can't do this stuff with anybody else but her. We respect each other. We each have our own personalities, and we love being Democrats. So thanks a lot for joining me
I'm
again
so
tonight.
grateful to be here with you. I hope we can do it again soon.
All right, terrific. We have probably about 30 seconds left.
Here's the final.
For Mike Capuano, 8,300 in Somerville. For Ayanna Presley, 8,200. Close. Thanks again for joining us for election night, primary 2018 for Somerville Media Center. I'm Joe Lynch.
I'm Carrie Rodriguez.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.